Late in the evening, November 15th, 1966, young couple were out driving and they had a very strange encounter coming through what is known as the TNT area of Point Pleasant. They were driving by this old armament facility that was used during World War II when the lights from the 57 Chevy caught what looked like reflectors from bikes. Turned out to be red eyes. And this thing spreads out its wings a little bit. And all of a sudden they get nervous and tear off, start driving. They think they're safe, but then they look up over to the side and they see this strange creature up on the mountaintop. This thing all of a sudden spreads its wings again. The car starts driving even faster. And all of a sudden, out of the blue, they hear these big roaring wings over the top of the car. So they start traveling faster and faster and faster, and this thing's keeping up. They're going about 100 miles an hour now. And the driver looks out the side of his window, and the glowing red eyes are looking right back at him. Everybody's screaming in the car, and he's tearing up back into town. And this creature just takes straight up and is gone. So they go to the sheriff, tell him their story. Sheriff takes it seriously, and thus begins the legend of Mothman.
That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
What do you see when you're in the dark and the demons come?
Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds.
Welcome to Buried Stories. I'm Jeff Mercurio. Back from vacation, Wendell Brown. Wendell, how are you?
Hey, Jeff, glad to be back. I felt like I was absent from class last week. Had to take care of some family business, but all is well, and glad to be back. I hope your brother didn't get higher ratings than me because my job's in jeopardy. But Steve's a delight. So I watched what you guys did. It was awesome. Nice job.
Thanks. So, Wendell, about the Mothman prophecy, as they call it, the Mothman prophecy. What is your knowledge on this encounter, this strange being, this enigma?
Well, I've always heard the Mothman and the harbinger of doom, and we all have those feelings, those sixth senses that I don't want to get on the plane, or I don't think I've ever had anything quite that dramatic, but I'll drive a different route to work today for some reason. Or now, hindsight, you see a million things that if I would have done this would have happened. If I wouldn't have listened to my dad back then this would have happened. And boy, I'm glad I did. Or only if I would have, kind of thing. So, but this story's always intrigued me, and of course, the movie came out and just dramatized it more, and I think it put it in the mainstream a little more. I bet there's a lot of academics that have talked about this subject even before the movie and things. But my knowledge of it pretty much goes from as far as the Point Pleasant incident is back in 1966. A lot of people. It was in December. There was a bridge there called Silver Bridge. There's a memorial bridge there now. I don't think it's in the same place. I think they moved it down the river a little bit. Yeah, but the Silver Bridge collapsed. 46 people died, and I guess there was a lot of personal prophecies that week of people like getting phone calls and hearing strange voices, people having dreams. There was a reporter there that dreamed that she drowned. Um, and the, so as far as the incident goes, everybody thought that the Mothman was or letting everybody know, giving them a heads up that a disaster was going to happen. Now, you can help me a little bit on this Indrid Cold name, because that's the name they gave to the voice that was telling people. I even saw one report where one or two guys wouldn't even go across the bridge. One wouldn't go across 2 days before that because he had a bad feeling about the bridge. And then one guy wouldn't go across it the day that it happened. Now, it'd be real easy, once it happened, somebody to say, yeah, I had a strange feeling. I didn't want to go over it that day. So, how much credence you give that is really up to you. But as far as the Mothman, it's a very, very intriguing story because there's so many sightings, and it also comes with the usual. You hear the Bigfoot sightings, that there's usually a UFO sighting somewhere in the neighborhood. There's some, all kind of paranormal things going on, and the same thing with this. Do you know if in the movie they portrayed a tree that was like basically tattooed by this thing? A burn mark kind of thing, scorch mark. I don't know if that's true or anything. But as far as the Mothman itself, I've always found it very intriguing. This story is well, it's 1966, so it's been around for a while. I knew about it before the movie, and it really takes a more gothic view than a lot of things you and I talk about, even though we talk about some ghost stuff and paranormal stuff. It's really it's darker. It's, but it's not evil necessarily. You know what I mean? I don't see any evil in it. It's more of there's something somewhere. Well, I think in the movie they even use the analogy like us to cockroaches. Would we really try to explain ourselves to cockroaches? No. And this may be something just on a different frequency and a different dimensions overused, but you understand what I mean. Somewhere else in our realm, but not visible. But it's a very intriguing story to me, and I don't know. We'll talk about it in the conclusions about what we believe in everybody. But I know in 1966 on December 15th, a lot of people went in some cold water in the river and died, and that's a tragedy. And so that is real, and then the stories that came out of it. I really don't see people back in 1966 eager to get glory off somebody else's death or misfortune. Not a lot of them anyway. Very intriguing story. It's always been a mystery to me, and it's always been up there with the biggest mysteries that are out there. And I'll let you talk about it a little more, because like I went to Skinwalker, and we talked about that on one show. You've been to Point Pleasant multiple times.
Yeah.
So
Been there twice.
You're a resident expert on it. So what are your thoughts on it?
Well, this particular story, it's got everything you could think of in paranormal, conspiracy theory stories. I mean, it's got UFOs, it's got the creature itself, it has men in black, it has Indrid Cold. I mean, it has prophecies, it has dreams, paranormal activity, poltergeist, it has it all. I mean, this is one of those stories that encompasses everything. And it actually, on that first reported sighting of this couple that were driving, actually on November 12th, that same year, in Clenadon, West Virginia, which is couple miles away from Point Pleasant, there were some graveyard workers, and they were digging a grave, and they started seeing this thing jump from tree to tree and then fly over them. But they didn't tell anybody about the story because later on, with this couple that was driving, they went to the sheriff. The sheriff took it seriously. They drove out there to the armament plant, took a look around, couldn't find nothing. But this stuff started making the paper, and they weren't the last people to see this thing. Another sighting on that same night that the driver saw this, a man at 10:30 was watching TV, and he had a dog named Bandit, and this was like 90 miles away from Point Pleasant. But at the same time that the driver saw it, he's watching TV, and all of a sudden the TV goes out, and he's seeing images on the TV through the static. Well, Bandit, his dog, starts barking at the door, and he's hearing this buzzing sound, so he opens the door, and he goes out, and he doesn't see nothing at first, but the dog is frantic. So he looks over towards his barn, and he sees these red eyes. And of course, a dog being a dog, he's a good hunting dog. He went after it. Well, the guy was so scared, he ran back into his house to grab his gun. And by the time he got back out, no dog barking, no dog around, creature gone. And what's funny is the people that were being chased in the car by Mothman were driving into town, said they saw a large dog's body off on the side of the road. And after they went and talked to the sheriff and stuff, they drove back to where they saw this dog's body, and the body was gone. So they were starting to think, what is this thing, jump time and space too? So, I mean, it's got a little bit of like everything. And it's weird because John Keel was the investigative reporter that uh, went out, started investigating all this. Now, he just happened to be in West Virginia. He was doing a story because he was a freelance writer for all these different magazines, and there was plenty of them back in the 60s. But there was a story about this kid. I think he was a 10 or 12-year-old kid, was charging 10 cents for people to see his cat, and the cat had wings, was born with wings. So he went out to do some research on this story, and then when he got there, this kid was showing him the cat, and the wings had fallen off. So it was like a weird growth on this cat. And there was like a court battle over this cat as well, because the neighbor said, hey, since he's making some money, that's our cat. And she took him to court over this cat. But after the wings fell off, she decided, that's not my cat anymore. So she gave up on that whole thing because no money was being made. So he was about to leave, and then he started hearing stories about UFOs around Point Pleasant in the Ohio Valley. Now, these lights, he was stating, were coming up and down the river, about 100 feet off the river. And it was seen in West Virginia. It was seen on the Ohio side. And what he did was he would wake up early in the morning, go up on top of the mountains, and just watch and try to pick these up. And he did experience seeing these things come down the river and then disappear. In fact, he was in his car one time eating breakfast. One of these cigar-shaped, here we go with the cigar-shaped one again, flew right over his car. And he was terrified by that. But then you bring in the Mothman, too. So he went into Point Pleasant and started to interview these people that are seeing the Mothman. There was another story. This happened a little bit later, and it wasn't called the Mothman. It was called the Birdman at first, until one of the news writers, because Batman was big on TV at that time, and there was an episode where they had this thing called Mothman. So one of the writers for a newspaper put it in, called it the Mothman, and it's stuck ever since. There's a woman that had an infant in her car, and she drove to her neighbor's house, and she got out of her car, and she was grabbing her little child out of the car as well. And she notices this thing on the ground, and I mean, it looked like a person. Well, this thing started getting up, and I looked at her, and again, those red eyes. She dropped her child because she was so frightened. So she dropped her child in panic She scooped up the child. She ran to the door. They got in, they locked the door, and there was some buzzing and some weird activity in the house. But the next day, they leave and they go talk to the police, and they got interviewed by the newspapers and stuff. But all these sightings left psychological damage on quite a few of these people that it came across too, as far as like anxiety attacks and everything else. But the one thing that was funny about this and some of these other stories that we did just last week, the Las Vegas alien incident. Well, the son says when it looked into his eyes, he was paralyzed. Well, the same people were saying when they saw the eyes from Mothman, they were paralyzed as well. It was like it saw right through them and it could read their thoughts. So it actually started out as a UFO story. And then here's this UFO. Like you said, with Bigfoot, a UFO is going to be around somewhere. So it's all kind of intermingled. But there was hundreds of witnesses to this creature sighting. And John Keel, he was jotting down all the interviews, and he would drive back to New York because he lived in New York. And when he got to New York, he would get these calls, random calls. And it was this mechanical voice on the phone telling him events that are going to take place. And one of the ones that John Keel says himself was the MLK assassination, which happened. So he's kind of getting nervous. He's like, what's going on here? What's the connection with this? And there was more stories coming out. So he drive back up to West Virginia back to West Virginia. And a lot of these other people were having strange dreams, getting weird phone calls about prophecies, about things happening. And Keel himself was saying, the Ohio River on the Point Pleasant side or West Virginia side was filled with chemical plants where people were doing chemicals. So he got a call one night that said something's going to happen in Point Pleasant. And he thought, okay, one of these chemical plants it's going to explode. And so he would go to West Virginia. He would always carry this gas mask and keep it in a satchel because he thought one of these things are going to explode and it's going to wipe out a lot of people, and I'll just throw the gas mask on. But it didn't turn out that that was the case. But, this story, it just goes, very interesting story. The poltergeist activity as well. People were having these strange dreams. People's having their locked doors open and close, cupboards, open and close. So it's got everything, man.
Yeah, the thing that hooks me is I'm kind of a believer that everything is connected, everything, and nothing's not. And as tragic as some of the events that in our life are, I think it's all connected. And the loss of a single life, I hear on the news, and it just sickens me when you hear about a shooting in some city, and or there's only 3 shootings or 3 deaths last month or something like that. That's 3 lives.
Right. I know.
And our life is all we got. It's everything. It's the big treasure. It's the gold ring. It's really all every individual has is the life, as far as we know.
Yeah.
And I think the loss of a single life is such a horrific event. And then 46 of them on a bridge. I kind of believe that there may have been something, whether you call it a harbinger, you call it the reaper.
Right.
Could have been present in some way. Do you know as far as any other sightings of this? Because like you said, the Las Vegas incident was one where it was very similar. The Bayside Meadows one was was somewhat similar, the mall
Right.
in Miami. Um, and then, something like 9/11, I haven't really heard anything about any Mothman type sightings before 9/11.
Actually, I was Art Bell a while back. Everybody listened to Art Bell. He was sent a picture. This guy took a digital photograph when the towers were hit. And there's this big bird-like creature in this photo. And he doesn't say that the photo wasn't manipulated, but he's saying it damn sure looks real. So, I mean, it's like almost a harbinger of doom. You know what I mean?
And like I said, not in an evil way. It's just,
Right,
get ready, hold
right.
on to your hat kind of thing.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but it is very intriguing. I think I'm going to make a trip up to Point Pleasant, because did you
You
feel any
should.
vibes while you were there?
Not really any vibes. I mean, the town is very peaceful. All the people that my wife and I met, because there's shops, up and down the strip in downtown Point Pleasant, which
Yeah,
is right.
they've commercialized it now, haven't they?
Well, as far as the shops, there is a Mothman museum down there, which still has all the old newspaper clippings. It's got all the talk about Indrid Cold, and the Men in Black, the Mothman. I mean, it goes through from beginning to end of this whole situation, because from 66 to December 15th of 67 is when the bridge collapsed. And after that, all these sightings and stuff just kind of vanished. Not saying that they went away permanently, but that was the
What
end of the culmination of this whole thing.
It wasn't attached to that town necessarily,
Right,
just
right,
the event.
right.
Um, yeah, in our discussions with you and me, we are really hopeful guys that there's more to this existence than the mundane things that we do every
Right,
day.
right.
And that's kind of the fun of looking into some of this stuff. And but like I said, I believe everything's connected, and I have no doubt that we talked about psychics, and we've even had some personal examples with you and I, um, about where somebody did tell the future. They
Hmm.
told the future,
Right,
and which leads you to a whole nother, probably multiple episodes here, but uh,
right.
if everything is predetermined, what's the point? But is it predetermined, or is just what we're going to choose to do known, or a high probability known? Um, but my take on this is that I think there was people had some visions and some encounters before that tragedy there,
Well,
and
this even goes stranger than that was the fact that people around this town during this whole situation, especially with focusing on the UFOs, they were starting to see these people drive in black cars, get out, black coats, black hat, everybody's nicely groomed, always wearing glasses, walking around talking to people who had already talked to the newspaper
yeah,
about the sightings and everything. So all of a sudden you got the Men in Black. And John Keel, when he was there interviewing people, and he would go back to re-interview some of the people he already talked to. He knocks on this door of this one woman that he interviewed, and she answers and goes, "Hey, by the way, after you left, your assistant came up here and was starting to interview me, asked me some questions about this." And he goes, "Wait, I don't have an assistant." And then he would start seeing these men in black. And once they made eye contact, these people would get in their car and take off. And so the men in black are always around situations like this, man. I
I
mean,
saw I
it's
saw some
insane.
reports. I saw some reports on the Men in Black encounters in Point Pleasant, and they were
Yeah.
really short. They were really
Yeah.
short, and they were really direct.
Right.
Uh, and so it wasn't like sit down, tell me your story kind of thing. It was question, question, goodbye.
Right,
And
right. And it was almost in a demanding fashion,
yeah,
because there was a newspaper writer that one of these short Men in Black came in and said, started asking questions about this UFO, and she was busy doing other things, and she's like, "Well, here's the folder. I don't want the folder. I wanna talk." And then she called her editor, and the guy just took off. So, I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
very strange, man.
yeah.
But the
But the
poltergeist activity too is kind of incredible. Like you said, I think it all meshes together.
I do. We haven't even touched on the existence of this thing that we're on, but like I said, for guys like you, it gives us hope, gives us stuff to hope for,
Always
that
something to talk
there's
about
there's
too.
more to it than like I said, what's the point? What's the point if we're put here to go to work, wash clothes, and rinse and repeat kind of thing?
Right.
What's the
Mhm.
point? And what's interesting about 66, since that was before I was born, believe it or not, I know you're shocked, but I'm one of those that always wonder, where the hell was I when this happened? Because obviously there was life going on Earth. You see all the stories before you're born. And I just wonder, where was I? And I think hard. I really try to remember, but unfortunately, I don't remember before I was born.
Right.
But, uh, but where was I? I was somewhere. Surely, if the popular belief that we are energy and we
Mhm.
never go anywhere, we just go back to energy. Um, if that is, let's say it's plausible and true, if that's the case, I was somewhere, but where was I? And when I see stories like this Point Pleasant thing in 1966, because that was relatively close to when I was born, uh, uh, I just wonder, because you start talking about Palladian theory and how you come back and all that. Um, where was I? But it interests me. But
Right.
this story, um, it it's really hard to dig deeper into it because it's a harbinger of doom. And you hear that worldwide. You hear that through the ages. You hear it in myths, and you hear it in Greek stories and things. And and how do you really put your finger on it? It's a prediction of the future, which to me says it's kind of laid out what's going to happen. I mean, if it
Yeah.
can be predicted, although you could look at it like, given things that have happened up to this point, this is what's going to happen. If these
Right.
things wouldn't have happened, then that wouldn't be the case. Um, but I love the Mothman story. I'm glad they did finally do a movie on it that, on how
Right.
good it was. But I liked some of them talking to academics in the movie, and the academics just basically telling them, don't try to figure it out. It is
Right.
what it is. And it's something that exists here. And just like you and I exist, it's just they exist on a different plane.
Mhm.
And then they give their analogies about the cockroaches and things. Would you really try to explain yourself to an
Right.
insect? No, you wouldn't. And but I like the story. I believe the people. I don't believe all the after the tragedy stories, because it's really
Right.
easy that, yeah, I just had a weird feeling that day something was going to happen. Okay,
Of
okay.
course.
Uh, but the ones that, like you said, that actually went to the police beforehand and went to the reporters beforehand, I absolutely believe they got calls or got voices or had dreams or visions or whatever the case. I absolutely believe that because I think it takes a lot to motivate somebody to involve other people in something
Yeah.
like that,
Yeah.
especially back in
Especially
that
something
time.
fantastical as this.
Yes, yeah, back
I
in
mean,
that
if it
time. I
was
mean,
oh, yeah, yeah.
yeah, and so to me, it's wonderful. As far, I hate the tragedy of it, like I said, but I think it gives us hope that there's more to this world than what we see and what we experience every day, even though it's harder than hell to get anybody to open their mind. But
I
I did
know.
hear a phrase today that, if somebody opens their mind too much, their brains fall out. So hopefully that's not my case. But, um, you know, I interesting story. I really like it. I do believe the ones that, especially the ones that were a week or so before that said they felt something. I truly believe that. Uh, and it just goes to signs, and I'm always trying to look for signs and try, probably miss if there are signs, I probably miss 99.9% of them. But it's interesting how all this came together, and then it's bad about the tragedy,
Right.
but yeah, very intriguing story. I like looking into it, and I wish I wish we could get a new lead on it. I wish we could get something new, unknown, or just something new that we could chase down and maybe connect another dot.
Well, there was a couple other things about this story that I found kind of incredible too. Is the December 15th, 1967. All right. That bridge, the Silver Bridge, connects Point Pleasant to Gallipolis, Ohio, right across the river. And it's got a light on each side of the bridge. And what was weird was it's rush hour. People are driving home. They got packages because Christmas right around the corner. Well, there's a red light on both sides of the bridge. So you got a traffic jam on the bridge, and then it collapses.
Yeah.
And a
Yep.
lady was saying that she had a dream that she saw Christmas packages just floating down the river. So Keel was saying usually that light, at least on one side or the other of this bridge, was never was there a red light on each side because you had to
Right.
keep traffic flowing. But for this incident, it was red on both sides, so it trapped these cars there.
So you think that the Mothman possibly impacted it, or
I
just
don't think
foretold it?
I think he foretold it. I don't think he had a direct impact on it. But like you said, it's a harbinger of doom. Something's going to happen, you know. And just the strange events, like a red light on both sides during rush hour to hold these cars there right before it collapses. You know, do you believe in coincidences? No.
Yeah, I don't.
Right.
I don't.
Especially
Rarely.
right. I then you have Indrid Cold too, who was also part of this whole scenario.
Do you know
A
how that
sewing
name came about? He said that was his name, right?
yes, yes. In fact, a sewing salesman, because back then everybody had salespeople. He was coming back from a trip, um, heading into Point Pleasant, and he saw this vehicle up ahead, strange looking vehicle, and there's a man standing there with this grin, and he described this grin as just a weird grin. And the guy walks up to his car, and the salesman is like transfixed with seeing him. And he hears, "Hey, roll down your window." The guy's mouth isn't moving, so everything's just telepathically told straight to his brain. So he rolls down the window and he's like, "I'm Indrid Cold. What do they call you?" He's just asking off the wall questions. And he's like, "Where is this at?" And just weird stuff, but never moving his mouth. He would just talk straight to your mind. And then he would
Wow.
get into his
Yeah.
vehicle, and this vehicle was odd looking, and it just lifted off and took off. So I mean, there's a lot of weird incidences going on with this whole thing. But the fascinating thing is, you know where the most recent Mothman sightings are? Is O'Hare Airport in Chicago. It has the latest Mothman sightings there. If you dig deep
Well,
in
we all
the,
know what happened there.
yeah, it's kind
Yeah.
of weird, but there's been a rash of UFOs or Mothman sightings, and everybody could look that up. there's a lot of articles written. So O'Hare
And
is the hot spot.
Chicago is a killing field, so to speak.
Yeah. Yep. So harbinger
One
of
of
doom.
the
Yeah.
interesting stuff, Jeff.
Yeah. You ain't kidding. But this story, I love this story.
I do too.
I mean, Mothman, it took off. I mean, you could go to Build-A-Bear Workshop and make a Mothman there. I mean, it just it just joins the other cryptids. Fascinating story, and it all connects with UFOs, the paranormal activity. It's just it blows my mind. But Point Pleasant, great town, should visit it because that old armament plant, the shell of it's still there. And there's dome-like bunkers there that you could actually where everything was stored. You can go there and you see YouTube videos of people going there and going in. I mean, if there's ever a lair for something to hang out,
Yeah.
that would be it, man.
We got to go up there again
Yeah. Yeah.
at the same time.
I'd like to go up more to investigate because I just did it on a trip to somewhere else and I stopped in there. But the uh the museum's a great place to go for information. And then once you leave there, it's good to go see where the old Silver Bridge was. And I never got to make it up to the TNT area, but I have seen it on YouTube videos that other people have posted. I'd like to go up there and check it out too, and
Well,
take
and
whatever equipment you can.
I'd like to investigate the Chicago
Yeah,
Mothman sightings more too to
yep,
see what similarities we can find. And
right,
um, like I said, it's all about trying to connect some dots as far as what you and I do.
right.
Uh,
Well, we
but
know that O'Hare had the UFO incident, so there's
right,
a connection there. So, but as far as this cryptid that everybody saw, yeah, I don't think he's a harbinger. He's not going
and
away.
I think with the Point Pleasant thing, you don't see the cover up like you see everywhere else.
No,
There's
no,
there's not a cover up.
right.
Nobody, at least there doesn't appear to be. Like the O'Hare thing, there is.
But yeah,
It's like you
yeah,
have all these radio chat recordings and stuff, and then they're like, "No, nothing happened here, just a cloud."
of course, yeah,
Um, but there's really no cover up of the Point Pleasant. It's really either, yeah, I know somebody that happened to, or it happened to me, or no, I don't. I didn't really have any experience with that.
right,
And that I like. It's kind of finite and it's kind of
yeah,
linear, and it's understandable that um nobody's, I don't think anybody's really persecuted these people that said they saw the men in black or ridiculed them in any way. It's just their story, and some people had issues and had events, and some people didn't. So I think maybe that's something that attracted me to this story a long
yeah,
time. There's not a lot of debunking of it.
right,
There's not a lot of attempts to debunk it, believe it or not. But there's just,
right.
some of our stories that we talk about, there's active, debunking
Debunking operation. Yeah,
efforts going on. And I've never seen it with the Mothman. And
no,
and I
and
think
these
it's one of the stories that's very misunderstood too.
right,
Not a lot's known about it at all.
especially that time period to 1966. I mean, after the sheriff that got the initial that initial couple came and talked to, after a couple more incidences that he heard, he had a town meeting. So he told the community what was going on and come to him with any reports of seeing this thing. So I mean, he took it seriously. This wasn't a game to him. But yeah, as far as people trying to explain, nowadays people are trying to explain what they saw. I've heard the owl. It could have been an owl
Yeah,
because if the
yeah,
light reflects off their eyes the correct way, their eyes are
I've heard
red.
that. I've heard that.
But trying to keep up with a car going 100 miles an hour, an owl, I think the fastest I saw that it could fly is 50 miles an hour. So
Yeah,
I don't think it
and
was
I haven't seen a
anything.
lot of owls that are interested in following you.
No, no.
Good
And
stuff.
going back to the UFO aspect now, this reporter, John Keel, and if you've never read the book, it's you should go out and get his book, The Mothman Incident, or Mothman Prophecies, excuse me. He talks about, he interviewed a lot of people because he was really investigating the UFO aspect of it, because the Ohio people in Ohio were seeing these lights and people on the West Virginia side. And he was saying some of these people were getting too close to these lights and they would leave radiation burns, and it was hurting their eyes. And in fact, it happened to him. He said his eyes felt like there was sandpaper in his eyes for about a week. So people were getting injured by these, getting too close to
Hmm.
these things too. So there's that injury aspect, which nowadays, I mean, you have that same thing going on. If some of these people get too close to these objects, they have marks afterwards, you know?
Yeah, radiation burns.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And yeah, and that as you peel back the layers of this onion, you do kind of get closer to the UFO realm,
right,
more so
right.
away from the
The
different
cryptid. Yeah,
dimension kind of guy.
yeah.
So, well, we'll have to if any new stuff comes up, we'll have to revisit this and everything. But we wanted to get it out there because it's one of the biggies as far
It's a
as
great story.
legends
Mhm.
and mysteries.
Yeah,
So, and it's also fairly close to where we
it
can go
is.
and see what happened at least
Yep.
Point Pleasant, at least that sighting on
Yeah,
it. But
yeah. Well, I
good
think
stuff.
in conclusion, I mean, this whole story has everything you could ever want in a paranormal activity aspect. Did people see this Mothman? Yeah, I believe the ones that saw it pre-bridge collapse saw something that they couldn't explain. The cops took it seriously. Since the cops took it seriously and UFOs were going on at the same time, the government took it seriously. If those men in black were actually from the government, then Indrid Cold, and the guy who saw him, he wrote a book because I guess they communicated even after that initial communication. But this has it all, and it's West Virginia has, well, Point Pleasant has a Mothman festival each year that draws thousands and thousands of people, and all your ghost hunters come out there with all their meters and stuff, and they go out. So, I mean, it has brought in a lot of money for them. Not saying that initially that was it, because this did ultimately end up in a tragedy. 46 people dead right before Christmas. I mean, there is a tragedy aspect. What you said earlier was kind of interesting. Maybe that's the Grim Reaper, you know? Who knows?
Yeah, and the more I hear you talk about it, the more I'm intrigued with the UFO aspect of it.
Oh
Because
yeah.
I always chased it as a harbinger of death from that angle.
Right, right.
Something, but you always bump into the wall of why tell us? Why do you want to tell us? It's
I don't
nothing
know.
we can do about. There's nothing we can do about it. Uh, but maybe there is something we can do about it, and it was trying to tell us,
Yeah,
to do something. But
right.
so there's a couple different angles you can come at this story from.
Hmm.
But the more I hear you talk, the more I'm thinking, yeah, because Indrid Cold, I know he's portrayed in the movie as a real, like a slender pencil stick guy,
Right, right.
small neck, no head, really like tiny head, almost like a shrunken head kind of figure. And I really never connected that because, what they're portraying in the movie is from those books and
Uh-huh.
from people's reports. How accurate it is in the movie. You can take it with a grain of salt, um, but still, I've always looked at it like from the other side, something from the other side,
Hmm.
instead of, uh, who knows, maybe there was a UFO aspect to it and something different about it. So the more I hear you talk about it, the more I'm thinking, yeah, that makes sense now.
Yeah,
Why that
yeah.
was portrayed that way and this was portrayed that way, and the
Hmm.
radiation burns.
Right.
that makes a little more sense, and why the trees had scars on them. Basically, radiation burns on them,
Right.
but
Yep.
they burnt in the pattern of what we know as the Mothman image. The black bat looking
Right.
creature.
Right.
Um, that's what those burns were, at least
Portrayed
told
as.
to be like, yeah,
Yeah.
portrayed
Hmm.
as. So, but yeah, interesting, and that's why I like our talks on this subject. You and I, yeah, I mean, we're not going to cure anything, and we're not. If we do, we'll probably stop doing this podcast if we find
Right.
actually find where Atlantis is, or find, but we're searching for the truth, and if nothing else, if it gets people that are like-minded that may have interest,
Yeah.
if it gets them to bring something else to the table,
Right.
that's all
Right.
good.
I agree with that, man. Well, Wendell, it was good to have you back for the show, buddy.
Well, glad to be back. Thanks for covering for me last week.
Not a problem. Not a problem. With that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. If you have a comment, please leave a comment below and email me. If you have a story you'd like to tell, don't be afraid. Just email us at buriedstories74@gmail.com. Until next time, good night, everybody.